this time, it is time for the most anticipated 30 minutes and 19 seconds of the week on KCIM. I have no doubt that is the case.
There are some people that I think tune in, right at 9:30. So we're a little advanced for them today.
I'm thinking they just can't reach the dial or something.
That's my guess. they're not quick enough to turn it, and then they hear us, and they're like, "Oh, might as well tune in."
Yeah.
See what those dudes are talking. Dudes, and I say that nicely. I could have thrown in another word there. What they're going to be talking about this week. We had some pretty good games. 6-3 week in high school football. Not too shabby.
Back-to-back good weeks.
Yeah. I'll take that. Tells you the strength of the area for football this year.
So we'll talk a lot about that coming up. Hawks come up with a nice win over the weekend.
Yeah, I don't know if it was nice. If you watch the first half.
The Hawks came up with a win over the weekend.
Hey, but I'll take this. A lot of people are upset, but they're averaging 30-some points a game and over almost 400 yards on the ground through 3 weeks. That's all I'm saying.
What did I tell you on the way down to
yeah, but that was Illinois State.
No, but I said on the season they would average about 40 points per game.
Well, yeah, if you're playing Troy and Illinois State every week.
Just don't check that halftime score for Iowa, that's for sure.
Hey, half doesn't matter. It's a full game.
You're Nebraska Cornhuskers, man.
Yeah.
They're rolling it up against UNI, man. They're up to number 18, I think, in the country? Was it?
No, still at 22.
Was it?
As far as the poll I saw, anyway.
Okay, I thought a different poll. Maybe I saw them. They were up in the high teens.
Yeah, I don't know if they're quite there yet, but, hopefully this is going to be a big test on Saturday against Illinois. But, as I told everybody that asked me, I'm happy with the way we played Saturday, but I thought UNI pushed us around a little bit with our offensive line. Got to give a quick shout out to the Anderson family, Sweden Sarah here in town. Their grandson, Blake Anderson, started for UNI as one of their offensive linemen and had an outstanding game. So, great to see that. I was happy he played well.
I got a cush week because Iowa State didn't play. Now, Texas, they lost their quarterback, Quinn Ewers, right?
Yeah, they did in the second quarter. But, Arch came in and played good. Didn't really need much. You're playing UTSA and you got ULM coming up this week. I would be surprised if Quinn plays. But
it's a huge step down to go from your $5 million starter to your $3 million backup quarterback.
I know.
Actually, doesn't the backup make more?
Backup might make more. I don't know. I don't know. Every time I see Arch come into a game, I just think of the Dr. I don't know if you've seen the Dr. Pepper commercial with Quinn, and he's talking about, we don't need no backup, even if he has good hair and a famous last name. I just find that funny every time.
I haven't seen that commercial.
So Quinn Ewers, here's our trivia question of the week. Quinn Ewers is kind of one of the favorites for the Heisman this year. Well, hopefully he's not out too long. He is off to a strong start. They say he's ranked number 2 for that. But which 2 Longhorn players have won the Heisman Trophy?
Vince Young's one of them. Oh, no, Vince Young's not one of them.
Vince Young is not
Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams. And was the other one
Ricky Williams
Campbell?
is one. Earl Campbell is the other one. There you go.
I always forget that Earl was from Texas. I think of him more of a Houston Oiler in those days back with the Oilers with the tearaway jerseys where you couldn't hardly see the jersey anymore.
Awesome.
Those were awesome. Yeah. He probably went through 8 jerseys a game.
You blew through that one too fast. I'm going to give you another trivia question here. This one's going to be a little harder. Oregon's Dylan Gabriel just threw his 131st touchdown pass on Saturday. It ties him 5th most in FBS history. Who is number 1 with 155 career touchdown passes?
I want to say Case Keenum.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a Houston quarterback, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Get out of here. Can you see my screen?
No.
Case Keenum, come on.
Yeah, and the guy's done, very little in the NFL, but those
he
those
threw
Cougars,
the Minneapolis Miracle.
He did.
He did.
He had a great year in Minneapolis
He did.
that year.
But those Cougars, man, they had some. They went
back
through
when that when? Who was Tom Herman was the coach there, but not when Case Keenum was there.
No. Yeah, they had. I can't remember who was calling the offensive plays and the head coach at that time, but they threw the ball all over the place. Yeah.
So there you go. There's a little college football talk for you for this week, and 2 really lame trivia questions. Apparently, I'm gonna have to up my game next week. But
you got a young guy over here who's got a memory, so that that helps out. So.
Well, I was kind of thinking maybe old school Texas. I might catch you up on that one, but no, he knows his Texas history too. So let's start. Carroll Tigers, KC. You had them against Dennis and Schleswig, just clearly outclassing the Monarchs.
No, yeah, I would say so. I mean, Carroll ran the ball for over 11 yards a carry You know, the whole game. They went 8 plays first drive down the field and like that and scored a rushing touchdown. They only threw the ball 5 times.
Wow.
Completed 2 of them, and both of them went for touchdowns. So
that's Madden stats right there.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. You know, and Denison, I think, struggled a little bit. I think Carroll wanted it more because I felt like they should have had that. They felt like they should have had that game last year and ended up losing it in a bad way. And you could tell that Carroll was the more physical team and the more dominant team. And Carroll, when healthy, you know, they have a really good running duo. And Tatum Peterson's off to a great start.
And their offensive line that night, I think you guys went player of the game. Noah
Hinders did a great job pulling and being a lead blocker from the guard spot. But it wasn't just him. I mean, if you heard, you know, Rowe, I don't know if he mentioned it in the coaches show on Saturday, but in the interview for the scoreboard show, he was like, our offensive line played great. This is probably the best game that they've played, you know, in his time of them being there, you know, all those kids playing together, because this is like the 3rd straight year that they've had the same offensive line. So all those kids have a bunch of experience.
Yep.
Interesting that they're 2-1 right now. They got to go to Creston. Never an easy place to play. I don't know how good the Panthers are.
They're down this year.
They were down.
It's a key week for them to go on the road and to pick up a nice win.
Right before district play, too. You know, if you can beat a team that was a state semifinalist last year, lost a bunch of kids, you know, I think it's going to bode well and build confidence going right into district play.
Yeah, being 3-1 or 2-2, that's a big difference going on there. So big 45-3 win over Denison Schleswig. You had maybe the game of the week, Jeff. You had Kemper and AHSTW. Offensive showcase, throw the defensive tape away, but the offense looking pretty good.
Yeah, I thought for a while that, you know, we'd still be playing today because I thought everybody was going to score on every possession. The thing that also jumped out to me, it was so many 3rd down and 14 touchdowns and 4th down and 10 touchdowns and stuff in that first half. You know, but the Knights got a big stop late in the first half, got themselves up by 2 touchdowns, and then just kind of held on from there. Every time it looked like they were going to pull away and they'd get up 14, you'd think they'd maybe be in control. AHST Avoca Walnut would go right down and score as well. They played without their starting quarterback, who's out for the rest of the year. Broke his collarbone the week before in the game, and he was their leading rusher and, of course, leading passer coming into the game. So they moved the Sternberg, who was a running back, over to, you know, the quarterback position, ran a lot of Wildcat, and Kemper just had a really difficult time, you know, slowing him down. And I think that's going to be a concern for them, is tackling and against good running teams that want to run the football, because they struggled with that the other night. But offensively, they got you know, Brock Baden going early, hit Carson Caney for a couple of touchdowns, hit Braxton Vanami for one. The first Candy one, I got to laugh because even Coach Steinkamp was chuckling after the game. He catches it streaking down the middle of the field, breaks a couple of tackles, and then it's a foot race. And it got to about the 15-yard line, and you could tell that he was beginning to slow down a little bit, and the guy behind him was gaining. So he juked him at about the 5, you know, and sidestepped as the guy was getting ready to dive at him and got into the end zone. And Ryan said they're going to have to work on a little conditioning because Carson said he was gassed when he got over to the sidelines and stuff. But that was a great play. And then they got, you know, Jaron Hoffman really ran the football very, very well. We ended up naming him player of the game that night, and they kind of leaned on him in the second half. They had a 99-yard drive early in the second half that kind of, you know, I think clinched the game for him, even though it wasn't over until, you know, that final drive of the game.
Before we get to the sack of the game that came out of that ball game, Kemper's now 2-1.
Yep.
They had a pretty convincing loss against Teelan, but two nice wins in a row. They beat Riverside last week?
No,
Underwood.
Underwood. Yep, Underwood.
I was get Underwood and Riverside mixed up. I don't know why. Mental block on my head. And then they just kind of outscore AHSTW. There's still a lot of question marks about this Kemper team, right?
Yeah, we'll learn more, I think, coming up this Friday. They host Roland Story, who's been good so far this year. They do have a loss coming in as well. And then
are they as big and physical as they have been in the past?
It sounds like it. When I talked to Coach Steinkamp, he said, yeah, they're really big and athletic. So that's going to be a good test. And then Des Moines Christian seems to be playing very well. But it's always hard for me, you know, with non-district games, because you don't know for sure, you know, how those teams match up, if they're going to be real good. You can look at the tradition of stuff and those kind of things, but I always kind of wait to see until you get into district games.
Is this game going to tell us more about Kemper than any of them? The first three?
I think so.
I think so.
If you look at the Radio Iowa polls released, Kemper's 5, Roland Story's 8. So this is a top 10 matchup in Class 2A going to happen at Carroll coming up on Friday.
Hot ticket once again right here on KCIM. Esac County, they actually get to the sack of the game here. That came out of the Kemper AHSTW game.
Yeah, Tate Barrett from his linebacker position always plays extremely well and picked up a sack in that game. Ended up with 2 of them, but had a crucial one in the second half that stopped a drive for AHST of Oak Walnut.
All right, and who is our sack of the game winner?
Do you not have it in front of you? Because
I do. I'm just seeing if you do.
I do not. I was just getting ready to look it up, but I was digging through my text messages to find it.
Jeremiah Maycumber
there you go.
Is our winner. And once again, our sack of the game brought to you by Market on 30.
Good morning, all student-athlete parents. Don't let your hectic schedules keep you from feeding your family. The Market on 30 can help you with quick and easy options like Pasquale's Pizzas, our famous mac and cheese, chicken strips, and much more. The Market on 30 in the BP Plaza.
Make sure you get down to Market on 30. Get signed up for next week's sack of the game. You can win a free sack of groceries once again from Market on 30. Let's talk about the other winners on Friday night. Esac County rolling it up over Missouri Valley 42-0.
Yeah,
good win.
Yeah, very good win for them. Got things rolling right away and just cruised to the win. Kind of jump starts them a little bit, dominant on both sides of the ball. That's their first win of the year, and I think it gives them confidence going into a district that I think they've got a chance in a lot of those games.
Yeah, so Earlham the clear favorite in that district, but other than that, it's kind of open. You can probably throw 4 teams in there about who can get that other playoff spot, and ESAC's going to be one of them. And I think one thing that's encouraging is last year it was defense.
Right.
This year ESAC able to get the offense going, and I think that's got to be good signs building forward because of the shutout they pitched, last week. So the defense is getting there, and the offense still continues to be good.
Yeah, Sam Julin coming on as a quarterback, throwing the football, and then I think he's starting to find some targets. Jack Gullett being one of those.
Asher Lawler had a good game.
Asher Lawler as well. So
got the Ehawks coming in on Friday night though.
That's going to be a test. Emmitsburg's really good.
State,
Yep, they're really, really good.
So that's going to be in Wall Lake coming up on Friday night off that 42-0 win. Glidden Ralston, nice win over Friday night as well.
Yeah, they're
bouncing back, playing really well right now. Colby
they're
Wallace
2-1, right?
Yeah, yep. Colby Wallace, I think when I looked yesterday, is like 4th in 8-man in rushing right now. So coming off like a 260-some yard game and 5 touchdowns, back-to-back weeks.
Yep.
With 5 touchdowns on the ground. So they really found. Kind of figured he was going to be the go-to on offense, going into the year. And it seems like they're kind of platooning guys in the backfield with him. Lucas Christian had a good game, Alex Daniel back there as well. And then Waylon Hine, they kind of threw back there for the first time last week and seemed to work. So you can keep Colby somewhat fresh by throwing other guys back there and kind of him being your main guy. Seems like it's working pretty good for Glidden right now.
They found their stride for this year? Is this?
I think so, yeah. And I think Audubon looks like the clear favorite in that district, but I would say after that maybe St. Ed.
Yeah.
And then I think you throw Glidden right into that mix with Coon Rapids Bayard as other teams that are going to be fighting for that second spot.
I think you look at week 1 for Glidden, and the 58-0 loss going to stand out to Woodbine. Woodbine's just that good.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a little bit of an adjustment period. Dave's been on the staff for years, but not as a head coach.
Right.
And now he is. So you saw the little bit of that adjustment period, I think, week 1, and they're really starting to find their stride the last couple of weeks.
They got Baxter coming in this Friday night for their week 4 matchup. Arweva, Audubon both rolling on Friday night. Arweva 60-8 over Siouxland Christian. Audubon 72-0 over Exira Elkhorn Kimballton, beating up on the neighbors there.
Yeah, Audubon very impressive, and we knew they were going to be good this year. I think they actually are exceeding the expectations just a little bit. I thought they'd be really good, but they look outstanding right now. Carson Wessel has slid into that quarterback position, is playing well. I think Austin Christensen, we forget sometimes to talk about him, but he is an elite defender. And is just really, really good. And then I think we also kind of fail to notice sometimes is I love that Sean sends me this iScore thing where I can literally look at the play-by-play of the game. And I do. I take the time on Sunday to go through that. And, they're getting a lot of touchdowns, and Aaron Olson seems to be setting up a lot of those touchdowns, whether it be a big run or a big catch. Doesn't always score himself, but he's the guy that puts them in position to be able to score those touchdowns.
He's just an athletic kid,
Casey, you got the game Friday night. They're playing Fort Dodge St. Ed. This is going to be a heck of a showdown.
Yeah, old stomping grounds. I used to cover St. Ed's when I was in college, so it's going to be an interesting game. I think you look at that game, it's an early district. I don't want to say district title game, but it kind of setting up that way with how Audubon's played the last 2 weeks, how St. Ed's played the last 2 weeks. Both teams coming off putting up over 70 points a week ago, they kind of seem like the two favorites in that district. So winner of that game really going to set themselves up for success the rest of the year.
Control their own destiny.
What's going to be the difference in that ball game between those two teams?
I think Audubon's better on the defensive end,
right.
So that's going to be a big key. And St. Ed's has got a really good receiver that they kind of keep intact. I think he had 3 kick returns for a touchdown last week. He's got 4 or 5 of them on the year already. So, that's going to be big. Tackling in space, I think, is going to be a big thing for Audubon coming up on Friday.
And no turnovers. Wheeler struggled with that, even though they rolled in weeks 1 and 2. Did not struggle with that in week 3 against Exire, Okra, and Kimballton, but struggled with some turnovers early in games in weeks 1 and 2.
Sounds like special teams. Your time to shine.
Yeah.
You need to cover those kicks well. Are we rolling by Siouxland Christian?
They got Blaine Smith back at quarterback, which I think helped a lot, and it eased some pressure off everybody else, because I think when he was out, they kind of honed in on Wyatt and Wade, and as I would too, and it kind of relieved some pressure off of those two a little bit. Both of them had really good games, and Arweva kind of beaten up on a team that I don't think has been very good, for a while. But it's good to get that win and go, especially kind of starting in district play and stuff like that with West Harrison coming up on Friday.
Reestablishing the running game that struggled the week before against Glidden Ralston. That is certainly something that they needed to do, because as much as we talk about them throwing the football a lot, it's their running game that sets up everything, and that physicality that Coach Stolk wants to play with.
At home against West Harrison on Friday night? Shouldn't
be a struggle. West Harrison, was really good the last several years, but their senior class graduated, and they've dropped off kind of dramatically. They've got some good players over there, but they're not what they've been the last several years.
So Carroll, Kemper, East Sac, Glidden Ralston, Arweva, and Audubon all picked up wins on Friday night. Let's turn it over to the flip side. IKM Manning, they took on Earlham. Tough ball game there. 80-14. Wolves dropped that one.
Yeah, I think that they had a lead. They led 12-6 and then ended up losing 40-18, which kind of sucks. I talked with Corey today, and he sounds like tackling was kind of the issue again on defense, and that's kind of been their issue so far.
That was an issue in week 1, much better week 2, but he was really frustrated with tackling in week 1.
All right. Riverside and South Central Calhoun battling. Was Riverside taking that one 34-21?
Yeah, Titans kind of struggled early, fell down 14-0 in the first quarter, gave Riverside the ball with really short field position, and then didn't come up with the stops. It was a scoreless game until the fourth quarter after that. The Titans never got within more than about 14 in that game until late, but played much better in the second half. Played without Caden Dorman, who's their top rusher, so put a lot of pressure in the passing game. Really struggled to run the football, and then struggled to stop Riverside's running game. I can't remember their young man's name, but they had a running back that ran for like 265 or something that night against South Central Calhoun. So defensively got to get better against the run, and then they've got to reestablish that run game, because we all know Coach Case, that full house tee, they want to run the football and be physical.
Time of possession. They got a road game.
Manning's got Riverside coming up this week.
Yep.
So another big one there.
South Central's got ACGC on the road.
A number 1 ranked team in Class 1A.
I think they dropped the 2, but they're still pretty high up there. So.
Yep. Collins-Maxwell, CRB, close matchup here. 28-20 goes to Collins-Maxwell.
Yeah, injuries the difference, the way it sounded in that one for Coon. Just not a lot of depth this year. Don't have a ton of numbers out, and had a couple of guys get banged out. Had to sit 3 starters in the third quarter out of 8 guys. Gave up the lead. They were ahead at halftime, and then a couple of those guys came back into the game to try and go in the fourth quarter, but just they weren't 100% and just not able to recover from that tough third quarter, and ended up dropping a game that I think they feel that they were the better team. Had some plays go against them, had some calls go against them, but I think they'll recover okay. But they've just got to get healthy. They just don't have numbers this year.
Coon Rapids has got Cam Anita coming in on Friday nights.
Cam's tough. Cam's really good. Their only loss is to Audubon, and Audubon handled them, but it wasn't a blowout.
38-20, I think.
Yeah, something of that nature.
Couple touchdowns.
Yeah, so I think Cam's really good. They're not playing with the Speaker kid, but I think they've kind of figured it out. The Speaker kid was an all-stater, and he's out for the year, but I think they've kind of figured out what they've got now without him.
So Roland Story Kemper here on KCIM on Friday night. We got Carroll High Creston on kick, and our regional game of the week with KC Miners, of course, Audubon at Fort Dodge St. Ed's. All those pre-games begin about 6:25. We're going to talk about the rest of the fall sports coming up here. Volleyball, cross-country swimming, all coming up.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind. Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Assistant Sports Director Casey Miners, and myself. A lot of stuff going on. Everybody got in the action this week. Finally, swimming is back for the Carroll girls swim team. But where's the numbers?
Not very high. I mean, they had 5 girls up at the meet on, I think it was Thursday. I was up there.
Yep.
And what's a normal? Give me normal.
They're
number
probably
for swim
16
teams.
to 20 some.
Yeah.
Wow. It's normal. Yeah.
But I mean, as we mentioned, you lose 7 girls that went to state last year. All of them were seniors, so I think they kind of anticipated numbers were going to be a little low this year. Sounds like they will
be back next year for numbers wise.
Yeah. And I mean, they had a couple second place finishes, but I think the girls know going in when you swim 4 freshmen, they're not going to win. Most meets they did have some girls finish pretty good. I think the Barons girl had a second. They had a relay that finished second as well. So and talking with Deb after. The meet was kind of, with it being their first meet, it was kind of just, okay, we're going to put you here, see how you do, because they don't really know what they like to swim, and where they're at with them being such a young group.
Right.
It's going to be a weird year for Deb Danner. I mean, she's not used to these low numbers.
No,
and
this kind of youth. It's too soft.
Just a total development kind of year.
Yeah, if I remember the grades correctly, it's a junior, a sophomore, and 4 freshmen.
I think it's two sophomores and 4
sophomores and 4 freshmen. So, she even told me the first day that I chatted with her, on our first Saturday coaches show that, most of these girls have swam like the summer league stuff, but that's different swimming, and it's different, events and all that stuff. So it's kind of completely teaching them just how to swim at a high school meet, compared to anything else. So.
And she did tell me after the meet on Thursday that one thing that she really likes about this year is that with the low numbers, it's easy to work with the girls more one-on-one and individual, so that they can get better for years to come.
I can see, good coaches. They just look at a team and say, okay, this is what I need to do with this team. The goals may be changed, but there's still the focus of getting better day in and day out remain for them. Let's talk a little cross country.
Yeah, a couple of runners really jumping off the board at me right now. Reg Potts from South Central Calhoun was second up at the Ridgeview meet, and that's a really, really tough meet this past Saturday. He's been outstanding. Dayton Wiederin from Kemper also was great on the boys' side. And then the East Sac boys were really strong with Landon Sporer leading the way. Owen Engel and Riley Aragon also finishing in the top 17 for them.
If I think correctly, SCC's only ran twice, and that's two second place finishes for Reg, so he's doing a great job to start the season.
As long as he gets to wear his shades while he runs, he's good. Because I laugh because at media day I asked him if he could take them off. He goes, "Well, nobody's going to know who I am if I don't have my shades on."
Got a signature look already, just in high school.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and then some other runners that have been running well here so far. You've got Reagan Garrison and Emily Albertson from ICAM Manning ran well Saturday up at Ridgeview. My nephew, again, Isaac Blankman, ran well. Casey Wiederin's been kind of the top runner for the Kemper girls so far this year. Bree Patterson led the South Central Calhoun girls this year as well. And then the Arweva kids, not a ton of high finishes, but, they're kind of, all of them are out for other sports, so they're not even running in a meet every week this year, and a lot of them aren't getting a lot of practice time except for on their own and stuff. So you're seeing some good things. I think, program that's kind of still developing and redeveloping itself, but Gabby Hundling off to a pretty good start for them so far.
All right, so let's move on to volleyball. We'll talk about that. We're going to get power rankings here before we're done here. We're going to talk football and volleyball power rankings, but let's talk about the week in volleyball.
I'm just going to kind of run through schools, and KC, if you have anything to add, go ahead here. But I think they're looking better. We saw them last week. Yeah. They're passing better. They're hitting better. I think they've got a couple of good hitters up front to be able to kind of build around in Morgan Bergen and Lee Whitrock, and then Emma Lighting playing well in the back.
You look at them last year compared to now, and it's a night and day difference. I think they're staying in matches. They're not winning them, but they're staying in them. They're more competitive. They're not afraid to be aggressive at the net. At times you wish they were more aggressive, right? Instead of sending over all the free balls. But I think it's a night and day difference with Arviva.
Yeah, they're coming on and going to get better. Audubon, Harlow Miller. She is one of the elite players in the area. Can do everything really well. I think Anna Larson's slid into that role as the setter this year. Cadence Brandon Sporer plays well for them in the back. This is a good club. They're just going to be in a league that's going to be really, really tough. That Wick on volleyball is outstanding, and they're one of the smaller teams in that conference. Carroll Tigers, I like what they're doing this year. They've won 8 games so far this year. They won 6 a year ago, so they've already surpassed last year's win total. They won 10 games 2 years ago. They've got a chance, I think, to eclipse that and keep rolling.
If they can finish right about 500, it's going to be a good year for them. And you got to like what Riley's done in her first year. Yep. They go win 5 games at a tournament earlier in the year, then go 3-3 at I think at a pretty tough tournament
this past weekend. Caitlin Aiden's playing well for them. Olivia Rowetter is playing well. If there's been an issue, probably it's been at times serve receive has given them some issues. Coon Rapids Bayard 9-0, undefeated. We thought they'd be tested last week against Exire Kimballton, who's really good, but they were able to get through that test and stay undefeated. Amelia Cook, the freshman's setting well for them. Leah Clayberg and Aubrey Hoffbauer are playing really well at the net, and Anna Hart's been strong for them in the back row as well. East Sac County, Addison Ehler, she's been incredible this year. Just hope that the arm and the shoulder can hold up. Yep. Yes. She's averaging about 15, 16 kills a game, and just is carrying them on the offensive side. Caitlin Schmidt, though, I think is coming on and giving them a second option, and she's been serving well for them as well.
I like their defense at the net with Emerson Ludwig and Kendall Quirk. Both of them do a really nice job of getting blocks up.
Mention Exire and Kimballton, I will say, with Taryn Peterson and Jalen Peterson, they've got a chance against anybody in the conference, and then you're getting Riley Miller and Zoe Rasmussen are serving well for them as well. Glidden Ralston, tough break for them. They lost Amelia Garrett, their setter, on Sunday to an injury. She's going to be out a couple of weeks, so they're in a hole right now trying to develop another setter here real quick and figure out who can slide into that role. But Ashlyn Tigges continues to play well for them. I thought Allison Snyder, I went over to their quad last night in Madrid, and Allison Snyder had a really good night for them, both serving and hitting. Ike and Manning, they're 2-1, so they haven't played a lot of matches, but you've seen the freshman in Keegan Ascheid grow. Addison Bandow, now a sophomore, has really come on. Grace Carroll's giving them a third pretty strong hitter. Anna Stengel playing well in the back, and then Carly Arp's doing a nice job of setting the ball for them.
So I think primarily being a setter.
Yeah, I think it's a team that's taken a big step forward. Kemper, you're
18-0.
You're going to do our rankings. I would put them at number 1 in my volleyball rankings and stuff. But
let's put them on football too.
Yes,
they're that dominant.
Yes, but Brianna Whitrock and Kaylee Simons are 2 really, really good players. Not that they don't have this team's loaded with good players, but Brianna may be as good as anybody all the way around. And I don't know if I've seen anybody in my 21 years here covering fall sports for Carroll Broadcasting that patrols and controls a back row better than Kaylee Simons. I caught myself on Saturday. I was talking with Molly Lang, was up there, and great volleyball coach, and we're just watching her move. She never stops. She's always in the right spot. She's there early. You don't get things past her because she anticipates and understands the game so well, and she's flat amazing. So and that whole team is really really good.
Yeah, I mean the hitters that they can platoon in. I think that was a big question mark for him coming into the year because you had Brianna Whitrock. Well, who else is going to step up? Well, now you can name about 4 girls that have come in and stepped up.
Mariah Houghton, Colby Peter,
Olivia Schenkelberg, Addie Antofer off the bench, Zoe Bruning, listing off 5 there, that have come in and played really well for them.
And then 2 really good setters in Carson Overmall and Elsa Tiefenlander. I think the biggest strength is they're a great serving team. They put so much pressure on you at their serve, and they have so many great servers. Peyton Sheridan, much improved over a year ago. ago. Krista Bunt, the head coach from Glidden Ralston, even said it in my interview I did with her yesterday. In years past, they struggled to volley a lot of times, and now Glidden beat them this last week, but they volleyed really well, and you can see the growth. They're sitting 2-1 on the season right now. And then South Central Calhoun, this is a fundamentally strong team. I know they went 3-3 this weekend, but Nora Radezel, their outstanding setter, was home sick, so they had to rotate.
Sounds like she'll be back tonight.
Yep, JC Gravy had to kind of slide from a hitter role back into the setting role, so that took one of their hitters away. But those are two outstanding players, and then Brenda McAllister, I really like Alexa Hollum in the back row for them. And then I think Nicole Carroll stepped in and hit the ball and played well for them on Saturday up at that tournament.
Kemper's got to travel to Council Bluffs, taking on Red Oak and St. Albert tonight. Any challenge for them there?
I don't see one.
No. It's two traditionally strong programs, but I don't know if either one of them are at Kemper's level right now.
It'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend at the CYO. Bishop Elan's there. I think they're ranked within the top 5 in Class 3A or Class 4A. So that'll be interesting. Find a lot about Kemper over the weekend.
And Galen Catholic's usually pretty strong too, but I would say that Heelan matchup's going to be the big one.
So clearly Kemper, the number 1 team in your power rankings in volleyball. Give me the other two, number 2 and number 3.
I would say Kuhn and SEC.
Yep, I would agree on that.
You look at the teams that are probably right now our best teams. You can argue ESAC in there. ESAC's played really good as well.
Yeah, I would say that my top 3 would be Kemper, Kuhn, and South Central Calhoun. Yeah.
Turn it over to football. Tell me who's the top 3 there in power rankings.
I'm going with Audubon in my number 1 spot. Yeah, they've been the most dominant team.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna throw Carroll and Kemper in there in no particular order, but I think you look at our team so far, those are the teams that are kind of, I think, above everybody else right now. But I think football, you can throw almost anybody in there with how close this stuff is.
Yeah, and I would concur with Casey this week that Carroll and Kemper jump into that top 3 in my power rankings.
Maybe Glidden outside looking out.
Glidden outside, and Arweeva the other one. I probably don't forget about them as well.
It gets a little more blurry after once you get down to number 4 and 5.
Yes, it does. So. Yep.
All right, that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week. Once again, don't forget, get to Market on 30. Get signed up for the Sack of the Week. That is coming up again next week. And join a podcast of this program. It's available in the podcast section on the website coming up in just moments.